Hello and welcome to Build On episode 2 of season 2. I'm Ricardo and I'm joined by the lovely Derek. Derek, hello.
Nobody tells me I'm lovely, Rick, apart from you. So thanks very much, and hi everybody, and welcome to episode 2, season 2 of Build on Open Source. And it's Hat Day today, and we'll all be wearing hats to celebrate Hat Day in the Build on Open Source show. So Rick, apart from hats, what have we got planned today?
Well, we have got a great show for everyone today. So we're going to start off with a roundup of open source news. We're going to be covering the last two open source newsletters, so last week's and the one that's going to be published on Monday. So we're going to spend probably 15-20 minutes. I think Derek and myself, we've gone through the projects and we're going to share with you our highlights. And then after that, we are really happy that we've got a special guest, Toni de la Fuente, who's going to be talking to us about Prowler. So please hang around for that because it's going to be awesome.
Yes, and I'm glad that you pronounced Tony's name as a fellow Spaniard. I would have struggled. So, wow. Let's get in. Everybody listening, this is a live show. We really appreciate comments, questions, whatever you're thinking. Put them in the chat and we'll endeavor to have a good time together and respond to as many as we can. So
exactly.
Shall we?
That's a good segue, Derek. That's a good segue. Before we transition, folks who are listening, like Derek said, we want your feedback, we want questions. We also have a survey. Okay. Now this is going to unlock exclusive content, but also as we are data driven and work backwards from our customers, we want to hear from you about how we can improve open source and also what kind of things you want to see on this show. Okay, so please take your time. We'll share this at the end of the show as well, but please use this link or the QR code so that we can collect your feedback. Oop.
Don't know it too early, Rick. Let's wait for that.
Too early.
All right, shall we get into the newly revamped news of the week?
I think we should. Okay,
already.
So we are going to be covering this week last week's episode 146 and the one I'm currently doing. But I thought, Derek, let's start off with you. What in the kind of last 146 newsletter, what was the project that stood out for you?
Well, Rick, I just happened to have it here. So this is 146 of the blog, not an episode. It can be confusing because we have the Build on Open Source show and the Build on Open Source blog, which I'm showing you now. So the first project that I wanted to call out from the last blog was this one. So Kube first. So we've all been there, right? We're like, oh, Kubernetes must be everybody's talking about it, everybody's building their applications on it. Really hard to get started. Complex, some might say. Learning curve, slightly steep. And so you need to know a lot before to get proficient at it. So that's why I like this project. Kube first is if I bring up the actual.
So for people in the chat, if you are using Kubernetes or if you haven't started using Kubernetes, what's stopping you? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. So and what's your experience? Do you find Kubernetes daunting, or are you a Kubernetes pro? So please let us know and let us know what you think of this project.
Yep. So Kube first is very much if you find Kubernetes daunting and you want a place to start. So what it actually does is it actually configures a number of things and deploys a lot of things inside an account. And all you have to do is set up this Kube first CLI. And it installs not only an application, but it also installs CLI, the toolchain to deploy it. And there is a beautiful diagram and blog that shows you everything that it does. And this is the highlight for me, because I'm like, Kubernetes, what is this thing doing? So there's a great blog which is linked inside the open source blog that goes through what is the bones of a cloud native application, and then links that to what Kube first deploys for you. So it's a nice way to wrap the project, and I really enjoyed reading it and reading about the project itself. So hats off to, is it the author who you know? Yes, hats off to Joel Hands, who's put us all together. And here is also included a diagram of what's installed, which which is really cool as well. So that's the first one I wanted to call out. Cube first.
Yeah, I got to say, I like this as well. And I think if people are new to Kubernetes, or in fact, even if they're seasoned, right, definitely recommend reading that blog post, because what I like about it is how they walk you gently into the universe, right? And I think for a lot of folks that basically might be coming to Kubernetes from something else, you need that language, you need that translation layer, right? And I think this blog post for me is better than most. So definitely check that blog post out.
Cool. And I'm just posting the links in the chat for Condescendant asked. And there you go, Condescendant. The links are there.
Nice.
So that's the first one. So the second one is a bit more lighthearted. So if we scroll down, so this back to the blog.
So whilst you're finding that, Derek, so you mentioned that the Cube first had a CLI, but did it have graphicals? Did it have ASCII art in the CLI?
No, I didn't see any ASCII art. So that's if we put a request in to Hans. Exactly. So Joel, please, we like ASCII art. So if you could put some ASCII art in there.
You need CLI if you don't have ASCII art.
Couple thumbs up then. So the next one is, let's scroll down. There's lots to do in this one. But I came up with the next one, which was mask words in images, right? So what this does, it uses recognition and text struct and wraps that in those calls in a CLI. And rather than me talk about it, I want to show you.
Let's see in action. Show me the money.
Let's do this. So let's share the first one. So
if it doesn't work, Derek, you're going to be walking the gangplank. So make sure.
I live on the gangplank, Rick. So this is an image. So the image it has a AWS organization root. It's got a few organizational units below it. If you look at the right-hand side, you'll see that one of those organizational units has an account ID. Right. So if you're talking about AWS and you show an account ID, it's probably not a good idea, because you don't want to give that information away. And it's very, very apt, given Tony's coming up and going to talk to us about security. So what mask words in image does, it gets an image in, you say what you want to mask, and it masks it. So if I show you, go to the next step. So that's the input. And then the next bit is
the output.
No, there's more. There's more. Actually, you have to execute. You have to execute. So here is my CLI. So call it. You just go. It's a Python task.
It's a Python command, right? Okay.
Yeah. And so you give it an input, which is what design diagram, and some rules that you define in a YAML. So you execute. When you execute that, it takes so it makes a call to recognition and comes back to the result. So now when you
drum roll, please.
Out there. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, it comes up like
this live, folks. Remember, so it doesn't work. Whoa, that is so cool. I have questions.
So, yes. And so there you go.
So how did it know that was something you wanted to mask, though? Was that in the YAML file? Was it?
That was in the YAML file, which I haven't got ready to show.
I think that's awesome. I think this looks really interesting, actually, because we've all got images that we do on a day-to-day basis, and it'd be nice if we could put them through some kind of sanity control, right?
Well, that's what I thought. I was like, can this make my life easier? Yes, it sure can. So
I can imagine, a Lambda function. Every time a new image is put on an S3 bucket, it triggers it off and does this automatically for you, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You can automate the shiz out of this, and it will make your life less risky. There's also an example in the repo. So you clone the repo. There's also an example that does it in source code. So it clones it in I think it's a JSON file as well. So there's definitely lots of uses for this, which presenting or using images. Okay, so that is last week's news blog. But what about the brand new this one?
Yes. Okay. Well, let me show you. Okay, I'm going to share it. So this is obviously currently in the works. So this will be published on Monday. I'm going to share two projects. The first one, if I can go to it, is this one here. Okay, it's called the Savings Estimator. Now, guess what it does?
Does it estimate savings?
Absolutely. It does what it says on the tin. Okay, so what's interesting is that and I apologize. Let me actually go into the project, because it's actually there's a lot of detail in the actual project. But the chap behind it, this chap here, Christian, I think it's Christian. We've featured his projects in previous newsletters. Okay, and he's got a track record of creating really cool open source projects that help you keep your costs under control. Okay, now this in particular, okay, what this one does, and there's a video that actually walks through the whole thing of what it does. Okay, now within AWS, for those people joining who may not be familiar with AWS, when you provision resources, you can provision resources on demand, but you can also provision them with alternative ways of paying for them. So reserved instances is one, but typically where you pay up front and you amortize that over to sort of 1 or 3 years. But there's also this thing called spot instances, and this is kind of like a marketplace where you can bid that you want to go a certain price for an instance type, and and the market dictates the price based on demand. And once your price goes above that threshold, you lose that instance, right?
Yep.
Now, because it's quite a powerful way of saving money, what this project helps you do is effectively estimate through this nice GUI. You can install it on Linux, Mac, and Windows, I believe. I've not tried installing it yet. Okay, but effectively it allows you to take your work. So connect effectively, you configure and integrate it into your AWS accounts. It pulls the data, and then it allows you to mock, say, moving a certain workload to spot instances. What might be my typical projected savings? So it allows you then quickly to see that in reality. And then the other thing is that if you're using some of his other open source projects, you can actually then automatically, it provides the configuration files for you to then do the deployment. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I think it is nice. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah. It's, and obviously, especially in these days where we're all trying to save on money. Okay. So I think don't just check this project out though. Check some of his other projects out, because, like I said, I think in this space, I think he's I think it's called Lean Cloud is the service that is behind this. They've got more experience than many, right? So definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, nice. And is that a video explaining everything as well for extra credit?
It is a video, so you know, like I said, so we like that when people you know, when open source builders put a video to help explain it. I think that really does help with the adoption, right? So definitely check it out. Worth trying. Really like this project. So that's the first one. The second one, again, staying on the security theme. Okay, is
okay. It's not Hat Day. Maybe it's Security Day.
It's Security Hat Day. You know, I'm looking after the high seas here, right?
Aye, Kevin.
Absolutely. I've been waiting for that all show so far. Okay, so what is MetaHub? I can hear everyone asking. In fact, I just heard a disturbance in the force asking me, what is MetaHub? It might be Yoda. Actually, it could have been as it started. So Derek actually reminded me that the new season's kicked off. So thank you for that.
Can't believe you forgot. Anyway, what's MetaHub, Rick? What's MetaHub?
So, MetaHub. Okay, so we've got a service called AWS Security Hub, and actually, very apt because when we have our guests later on talking about Prowler, there is, I believe, some integration with that. But AWS Security Hub is effectively a central place where you can report security events from AWS. Okay, now this is a CLI, and let me actually go into the actual project, because I think this diagram explains what it does. Effectively, it's a command line tool that allows you to effectively interact with Security Hub, but also then filter and search based on information you need. So you can filter on tags or specific things. And in the actual documentation actually has some great examples of how you can use this to refine a search for, perhaps if you're troubleshooting an incident. Let's say, for example, you've got a security advisory and Security Hub, and you want to basically trace through all the different resources you might have in your AWS accounts, what that might impact. So this, you can do it through the console and all that kind of stuff, but through the CLI, it allows you through the examples piece here. It actually shows you how you can actually then, through a couple of examples, how you can use this CLI to just provide you with just the things you need to worry about. Okay, so I think this is a really useful tool for builders who are using Security Hub as a source of truth for security incidents, but want then a way to actually interact with that information and act upon it. Okay, so it's really, really cool.
Yep.
And so that's MetaHub. So those are the two projects that I want to call out. Obviously, there are lots of other really cool projects, but we don't really have time this week. But make sure you check it out when it's published on Monday morning UK time, where you'll get the full thing. Or if you want early access, okay, complete the survey, and you'll get access to this information straight away.
The survey.
That's the one. So yeah, we got
over there.
We've got the friendly URL at the bottom, or the QR code, whichever one. But that will get you access to that today, right? So if you want that, otherwise wait till Monday when we publish the blog. So Derek, that was the a couple of little peeks into cool projects that are coming everyone's way.
Excellent. They were two cool projects. So shall we move to our next section, Rick, which is our guest of the week? Yeah.
Coming up, Toni de Fuente, talking about Prowler.
Nice, Lynn. Love your accent. Lovely. Okay, let's go. Toni.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hey. Good morning. Good afternoon, Derek.
Good evening. Yes.
Good evening.
And we're liking your hat. So obviously the hat special. We've got the Prowler Pro. Okay, so not just a Prowler, you're a Prowler Pro. So
yes.
So Toni, tell us more. Tell us more about yourself and your company.
Well, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here with you both. So I started with open source very, very young because I like the way to contribute with third parties, with others, and I started writing in my blog blix.com, writing for others, explaining what I was doing in open source in general, and then in cybersecurity in particular. And over the years, I have been contributing with several open source projects, starting my own projects, and also I started Prowler in 2016. When I was working for other company, then I joined AWS. I was your colleague a few years ago, and then I left to start my company around Prowler. So we have a product called Prowler Pro that uses Prowler as the engine or the scanner. So that is what we do, and of course we keep maintaining and improving and evolving Prowler open source.
Cool. I didn't know actually, Toni, that you're an ex-Amazonian. There you go. TIL. Yeah.
It's a nice surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So
Toni,
and,
sorry, go ahead.
So we talk about open source and developers scratching an itch. Okay, so what was the inspiration behind Prowler, and also importantly, okay, what's the origins of the name? Because it's a really cool name, right? So tell us about the origins of the name.
Yeah, you can see more or less the origin of the name. Well, I started Prowler because I had a need. When I was working for another company, I took over a new position where I had to take care of multiple AWS accounts, and I didn't know what to do. I was totally lost, because I didn't know what to do in order to understand what was going on, gain visibility of the resources and how were those resources configured. By that time, we had VPCs, but also we had, you remember the EC2 Classic, where everything was exposed to the internet, and I wanted to know, hey, if this is exposed to the internet, how is it configured? Am I using security group with a port 22 or port whatever open to the internet, things like that. So some sort of basic checks that I wanted to figure out how to know. And I wrote some bash scripts to do that became over the years in Prowler. And I used the Prowler name because Prowler is the first song of the first album of Iron Maiden, my favorite band, heavy metal.
Nice.
So that is the reason. And now since then, every major version is called like an Iron Maiden album. So the very last one, the last one is Peace of Mind. And this very last version is also a song of the album, where I used to, in the release notes, I used to talk about the song or the album, what it means to me and to the community, and why we are doing that with Prowler.
I love it. I love it. So not only are you helping customers help create more secure environments, you're actually driving up sales to Iron Maiden, the band. You know, this is great. No, I mean they must love you. I mean, you know, have you positively impacted their sales forecasts?
Yeah. And Kinroyd has called it coolest version naming standard ever.
We need more. So actually, we need more open source projects that are named after heavy rock. In fact, not just heavy rock, any kind of musical albums, right? So
Number Blaster, of the beast. What's the answer to this? First question from the chat, Tony. Waiting for the number of the beast. When's that going to be released?
Well, you know when it's going to happen. When we have the 6.6.6 version.
Yep.
So Tony, what are you going to show us today then? Because obviously, you know, we've got builders who are, you know, keen to see code. Right, they want to find out, get their hands on, and have a deeper understanding of Prowler. So, what are you going to show us today?
I want to show you what is new in Prowler. Actually, Prowler 3. After Prowler 3 was a brand new version, not only because of new features, but because we rewrote the whole thing in Python. Before that, it was a collection of bash scripts, and now it's an actual tool in Python, way faster. Like something that before used to take 2.5 hours, now is 5 minutes, literally. Cool. So, and the main thing of Prowler was basically to be able to scan an account no matter what you have in the account. What I mean with that is, if you don't need to enable anything to scan your account with Prowler, and you don't have even to specify regions or anything, because Prowler is going to go across all the regions. Because some of the problems I had at the beginning was to find staff resources in places that I didn't expect. Like, what is this instance in Singapore doing? Right?
We've all been there.
So out of the box, I made Prowler working in all the regions at the same time. Despite that is making Prowler a little bit more slower, but now in Prowler 3 we are doing that in parallel, so it's not affecting the speed. And also I wanted to make sure that Prowler works in every single partition. So not only the commercial partitions that everybody probably watching us is familiar with, but also in like partitions like GovCloud, China, or Top Secrets, for example. So it will work the same way. Not applying all the checks, because not all the checks are the same in all partitions, but most of them. So we have now almost 250 checks. So what I want to show you is the basic usage of Prowler and some new stuff that probably some people doesn't know. And I want to show like the GitHub integration, a Zoom role functionality, and other new stuff like tag-based scan. Okay,
cool. Shall we jump in? Shall we jump in?
Yeah.
There we go.
Let's go.
There we go, Tony. You are in charge.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is the first of all, this is the GitHub repo. as you can see here, github.product-cloud Prowler, where you can go and learn and understand everything about Prowler. In version 3, we have a very easy way to install Prowler. You can use pip install Prowler, or also with Brew if you have macOS, for example, or even you can use container, etc. We have also a new documentation site that I want to highlight because it helps you also to install Prowler in different ways.
Nice.
We have a bunch of tutorials here where you can use the reporting, quick inventory, etc., etc. So I'm going to show some of this stuff today. So let's go ahead and switch to the terminal, and I can show you everything. So first of all, with the new version of Prowler, we have to use Python. So you need Python 3.9, at least 3.9 or newer. And it's very easy to install, as I mentioned. You just can say do.
Does it have any other dependencies, or is it self-contained?
Yeah, it has different dependencies because we use third-party libraries for many different things, like to generate CSVs, JSON files, etc. But with PIP, everything is very easy to install. Or you can also use upgrade to have the very last version of Prowler, which is the 3.2.4. Actually, it's going to be 3.3 probably on Monday because we added a few new stuff, new checks, etc. So we are creating new versions every week.
What's the name for 3.3?
I don't know yet. I didn't think about it, but it's going to be probably after. So I'm keeping the Trooper, which is my favorite song of this album, of the Peace of Mind album. So I'm keeping the Trooper for probably 3.5.
Okay. You've heard it here first, folks. Heard it here first.
To the chat, folks. The chat might want to suggest an Iron Maiden song. What do you think the next version should be called? What's your favorite Iron Maiden song? If you've got a favorite Iron Maiden song, put it in the chat.
Yeah, from that album. Yeah.
Okay.
So so we see the last available version of Prowler, which is the 3.2.4, and of course we have if you run right when you have this installed, you just need credentials and run Prowler. Let me show you a little bit the usage diagram here because I think it's important to highlight the way Prowler works. So here we have. Prowler can be executed from your workstation, for example, or even from Docker or Kubernetes, or even from Cloud Shell, Cloud9, an EC2 instance, EKS, Fargate, or Codebuild. We are a very large user of Fargate, so we use Prowler in Fargate. Prowler may use Shodan to scan for public resources, and also it goes through all the public APIs endpoints and regions in AWS using a role. So you need a role or static credentials. Of course, we don't recommend static credentials. We recommend using a role or with dynamic temporary credentials. And once you scan all the regions or just specific regions and specific services, you can send the output to local files like with a CSV, JSON, and HTML, or to S3 bucket, Security Hub, RDS, or whatever else. So you name it. Okay, so this is important because you need at least credentials with minimum permissions of read-only, with a security audit, etc., to scan all the services that you want to know about. But Prowler never changes anything. It's just get and scribe and those kind of calls. Okay.
Yep. Gotcha.
So with that said, so you just run Prowler, and Prowler will scan everything because out of the box it goes through the account that you have set up in your permissions. Or of course, you can provide the profile if you have any, and it is going to scan everything across all the checks. In this case, as you can see here, 248 checks. Across all the services that we support. We support about 50, the most important services, 50 services at this point.
Yeah, and Toni, just a question for my benefit, for anybody else who's I haven't seen Prowler before. So, what if say you're in an organization that has OUs and stuff like that, and account topography? How would Prowler handle that?
Yeah, good point. And actually, I'm going to show how to do that. Prowler has a feature called assume role. So you can if you have different roles. Actually, I'm going to show you the way we recommend to do this. So you can come here to the repo. In the repo, we have a section called folder called permissions. Actually, we have the create role to assume. It's a CloudFormation template that you can deploy in the very each account that you want to scan with Prowler, and Prowler can assume it. Assume with this is the options for Prowler 2, and I'm going to show you with Prowler 3, which is easier. It's just to say to use the ARN of the role you want to assume. And here you have everything done. Like, okay, let's use this security audit for this Prowler scan role or Prowler execution role, whatever name you want to give it, and the view only access, plus some additional permissions that Prowler needs to get the most from Prowler, because we do a few other things that are not directly added in the view only or security audit. That they will eventually, but in some cases we have realized that they are not there yet. So with that said, so you can use, for example, stack sets to deploy this template across your whole organization, or given OOUs. And also, if you deploy this template in your management account, your AWS organization's management account, and you tell Prowler which is your management account, Prowler is going to pull account information, additional account information, like the email address, account name, etc., which is very helpful for when it comes to realize what is this account ID, right? I'll show you how to do that. For those that are familiar with Prowler 2, let me zoom out this. See, we can see here the progress, but for the sake of the demo, I'm zooming in this a little bit. So for those that are familiar with Prowler 2, they remember that may take hours in some cases. But now, see, this is going to be 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, I scan an entire account.
Wow.
Across all the services.
So I was going to ask, so you literally just type Prowler, and it's using the credentials, the default credentials, I guess, that you've configured in the permissions thing. It goes to the endpoint, and then from there, it basically it finds out what all your resources are, and then basically iteratively goes through all of them. Is that right?
It's totally right. So this is the percentage of failed findings and the percentage of passed findings. And now I have an overview table to see what's going on here in regarding the pass or fail status and regarding the severity. So here you can see every service, how is the severity. If you want to drill down into the issues, into the different findings, you can do different things. Opening the HTML. If you want to go, let me zoom in a little bit. You want to go through the report. Now the zoom is not working now. Okay. Here.
Oh, there we go.
So see all the pass and fail findings, but you can also filter here by severity, status, the service name. Let's say that you want to see only the fail critical findings. Of course, this is only IAM in this region. So you can close here the filters, and you can see all the failed critical severity findings to go and fix the most important things straight away. So basically, what you need to do.
Chat question. From Robin Ford. I heard you were adding compliance frameworks. Is that in V3?
Ooh.
Yes, I'll show you. I'll show you that in a minute.
Thank you, Robin.
Good point.
Nice. So actually, so this what you showed us there. Okay, that's the output in HTML of the report. Okay, the structure of that report, the formatting of that. Is that something you can customize if you have specific needs, or is it set?
Yeah, it's everything written in Python, and we have an output library where you can customize your own. But actually, you can do it in your own if you want, because we provide also the CSV and JSON. So if you are familiar with CSV, See, we have a nice table here as well, normalized fields where you can see the things, unique ID, provider, check ID, blah, 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 everything, including more details than what you see actually in the HTML. In the HTML, for the sake of the size of the table, you have less information, but in the CSV and JSON, we give you a bunch of information regarding every finding, like the risk, description, even in some cases, remediation text, or in some cases, even the command to remediate the finding, the issue.
Oh, that's cool. Like that.
So here we don't have the code native IC, but here we have the link, for example, in Bridge Crew or Trend Micro, how to fix that, the bits from CloudFormation, for example, if you want to fix it in your infrastructure as code, for example, or in some cases, we provide, see here, how to enable the access analyzer, how to create the analyzer, all that stuff. So you can build your own report if you want with this given information. Not all checks are giving you everything, but in most cases, actually, we are always adding new checks, improving the existing checks, etc. So it's very active community. So in this case, see, we don't get anything about account name or anything, but I will show you this later.
Yeah, I mean, so we got questions as well from Kinroyd.
We just got some comments. Monkey is definitely thinking JSON's better than CSV. So we have an output format war going on. Anybody wants to argue with Monkey if anything's better than JSON, bring it on. And also Kinroyd is commenting that free to run it on the infra because it'll find, I assume, a lot of things, and then that creates extra work for them.
So I can tell you in 10 years or so doing AWS assessments. And since I have Prowler, I never did an assessment with everything green. So
it's a journey.
There's a challenge.
But actually, to Kinroyd's point, okay, are you able to run when you ran Prowler? You said it went out and went through everything. Okay, are you allowed to, for example, can you run Prowler and say just run Prowler against anything with a tag of, my app? Can you do tag based compliance checks? That way, at least it will allow you to chunk down, right? And you could run a Prowler report just on your specific workload. Can you do that?
Yeah, something that we added also in version 3 is that capability, actually, because we know Prowler is being used by many developers, and probably and also in some cases using Code Build or Jenkins, etc. So
yeah.
When you are using the best practices, always not always you are using best practices, but in the best case scenario, you have your dev account, staging account, prod account, but it's not always the case, right? Sometimes you are using everything in just one account or multiple accounts. So what happens if you want to make sure that you scan only the prod environment or the staging environment, etc.? So that is why we added the tag-based scanning. So, for example, now you can do Prowler. You can use Prowler AWS or without AWS. By default, Prowler uses AWS. Resource tags, and you can use your key pair, your tags pairs. And in this case, I'm filtering by this region and using verbose. Verbose is the option that we use in Prowler 3 to show the output like Prowler 2. So in this case, it's going to go through this region looking for resources, whatever those resources are, using env demo. In this case, let me give you an idea. It's a security. I only have a security group with this. So what it's going to do is to run all the security groups checks against that resource. So I was very fast. Yeah. See, we have 21. Let me go up. Yeah, 21 checks regarding this type of resources. So, and it's going to see, is it open to the whole internet or the MongoDB port, the FTP port, SSH, remote desktop, all that stuff. Everything related to security groups. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but it's very easy and very fast to say, okay, scan right now my production environment using tags, for example.
Good
or
stuff.
You can use also use resource base.
Okay. Yep. So I'm hoping that answers maybe Kinroid, maybe now that you can sort of chunk down where it runs, maybe that'll be more useful to you, and you don't be so afraid, right? You can use it in small chunks and iteratively improve, right?
Yeah.
So if you like, I can also show you. I mean, there are so many different options, like to list checks. I like this. We have a new option in version 2, in the last version of version 2 and version 3, that I think is very helpful for the users, and it's very helpful also for us to realize how many resources we have and we have to take care of, which is the quick inventory. If you run a Prowler quick inventory, we use an API for the tagging API to go through all the regions, all the regions that you have enabled, and get resources per region. Actually, we can get
very handy
in less than a minute everything that you have across all the different services. That's per resource type as well, and total resources. So, and also we give you a CSV and a JSON with the results. And I wanted to show you something that is going to come in the next version that we are working on, which is, and you can see it here. Actually, it's an exclusive for you guys.
Oh,
we have this in this pull request. Look at this, the inventory. We are adding a nicer table. Can you see this table?
Oh yeah, we like it.
So
ASCII art, ASCII tables.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. So you not only get the total resource type, but also per region. Ooh. And the same in the CSV, which is very helpful at the end of the day to know what you have today, what you are going to have tomorrow, and to compare, etc., with your own tools, right? But
nice
giving proper visibility to what you have, which is the main concern, right? Gain visibility.
Yep.
Well, if you like, I can show you a few other features that I think are very helpful, like, for example, categories and the compliance, for example, and then the security hub.
Yeah,
I think
Robin, let's answer Robin's question. Yeah. If you're still there, Robin, we're getting to it.
Which question?
The compliance frameworks.
Compliance. Okay. In Prowler 3, we have a bunch of new compliance frameworks supported. You can list all of them with list compliance. See, we have CISA, SOC 2, CIS 1.4, 1.5, GDPR, etc., etc. The way that we have implemented this is based on a JSON file. Yep.
Oh, okay, right. So I was going to ask that. So basically, when you did that command, it's looking at a JSON file within the project, and then it basically has listed out those. So I guess the reason why I ask is that this means you can add other ones, new ones, your own ones.
Yep. That is the idea. Let me run it, and while running it, I'm going to show you how to implement yours. For example, let's see if we want to see the requirements. So we have decoupled requirements from checks. Before that, Prowler, or you see that in many other tools, that the checks are the same of the requirements, but sometimes it's not exactly the same. So a compliance requirement may require multiple checks, because you need, like, let's say that you are required to have everything encrypted in transit. Those are multiple checks. You have to look for at ELB, you have to look at the S3 to enforce SSL, all that stuff, right? So we have done that in Prowler 3. So, for example, if you want to see requirements mapped with checks, you can use this command, list compliance requirements, for example, for this particular framework, CIS 1.5. And then it's going to give you all the checks for CIS, the description of the requirement with the checks. For example, ensure no security groups allow ingress, blah, 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 blah. So we have 3 for the server administration ports. We have 3 checks actually in Prowler for this. So let's use the three of them, right? Things like that. And let me run the CIS 1.5. And in the meantime, in the account that I have set up, okay? In the meantime, I'm going to show you how is this implemented actually in Prowler. So we can come here to the code. This is also in the documentation portal, but I'm going to show you the code because it's also easy to see. See, inside Prowler, we have compliance, we have AWS, and we have a bunch of JSON files here. This is going to be the CIS 1.5.
Okay.
Where we have, which is the framework, CIS, the version of the framework, the provider, the description, and then the requirements. And this is where I mentioned the every framework is different. Every framework has the requirements, but different attributes. So you can do that also in Prowler. You can, if you are in the government of New Zealand and you have your own specific framework, you can come here and create your own JSON file. And you need probably something else if you want a specific report. But basically, to do your own, you can use this as an example.
Nice.
So which is very developer friendly. And
so you've got listed here, for example, the IDs, and you've got the metadata around that. But how does it actually map to something that Prowler checks for? How do you marry this specific thing to actually something that Prowler gets information for you?
So exactly what we do is to run the check or checks required per requirement. So this one, let's say let's go this one. The CIS 1.17 is in serial support role is created, and we have a check that looks for that role.
Nice.
And we give you, when you run Prowler, see, Prowler now is finished. So you have the overall overview and you have the specific CIS overview. And also we give you this CSV with the specifics for CIS. So we give you the regular outputs plus and one specific one for the framework. And then you can do your own reporting, or you can follow up, etc. So let me open this CSV. You can see here the table with all details. So we wanted to separate the Prowler results themselves from the compliance, because sometimes compliance has a way more information than is actually required for a simple scanning, right? So you have here everything that CIS needs to tell you, like the level, if it's automated or manual, because some checks are manual. There is no way, no API to do that. The description of the attributes, how to fix it, see the rationale, the remediation or impact, etc., etc. See the requirements, attribute, remediation procedure, everything.
So as a security engineer, this is all gold, because this is doing your job for you, really.
Yeah, it helps. It helps a lot on that.
Yep.
I hope this is answering the questions from the chat.
Absolutely. What about more features? So we've done compliance frameworks. What else? What else can you show us, Tony?
Security Hub.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, because we have also customers that they say, okay, I want to go all native with AWS, and sometimes I want to do also my own custom checks, which is something that you can do with Prowler, right? Or going beyond the typical compliance checks, which are very helpful, but not in all cases are covering everything that you need. For example, okay, I want to look for secrets in code or secrets in places. So Prowler has some checks for those kind of automated pen testing. So you can do things like using Security Hub for the basics and using Prowler for the most advanced checks that are not covered, or your own custom checks. So to do that, you need to go. Let me show you. I have to go to this account, for example, the account that I have configured. I can go to Security Hub. Remember, I said Prowler works across all the regions by default, but in this case, since Security Hub is a region-based service, I have to tell Prowler also, hey, send these findings to this region. Okay, so let me go to Security Hub. I'm going to enable it. I can enable these standards, but I'm going to not enable anything because it's easier to identify the Prowler checks during the demo. Okay.
Tony, we had a question from Robin Ford again. If you know, from a project perspective, if we want to if someone wants to contribute a compliance JSON file back to the project, is that something that you accept?
Of course, we do. Actually, a lot of checks that we have been written by the people from the community. So yeah, and please do it. We have planned to add more compliance frameworks, but so far we have those 20 frameworks for AWS. But of course, open to do specific ones. So, for example, we are working also with the government of Spain for the Spanish security framework for AWS. We are also contributing to other governments. So we are open to include those out of the box in Prowler.
Nice. Brilliant.
Cool. And Robin is, I think he's convinced, they're convinced that, you know, it's time to move away from NCC Scout and onto Prowler.
Well,
That's good.
everybody's
Yeah.
welcome into
There we
our
go.
community.
Cool. Sorry.
So yeah,
That's Security Hub.
once you have Security Hub enabled, you have to go to integrations, look for Prowler, and accept Prowler findings. This requires some additional permissions, like send findings to Security Hub, etc. Everything is explained in the documentation portal. Okay, so let me come back to findings. Everything is, well, I have here something because yesterday I did the demo, but wait, let me give me a second. I'm going to show you how to run exactly this. Once you have everything enabled, it's as easy as this. Security Hub, AWS, Prowler AWS, Security Hub, and filter region. In this case, as you can see here, I was doing this in Virginia, okay? So this is why I'm filtering by Virginia only. And in this case, with this command, I'm going to send everything to Security Hub. That may be not helpful because you don't want to see everything. You want to see probably in this case, let's see the categories secrets. Because we have the secrets category. You can list categories to see all the categories that we have. This is going to go through CloudFormation, Lambdas, EC2 instance data, user data to look for places where, in our experience, people using a bad practice used to store secrets. See, if I go here, I have the HTML, I have all the outputs, including the ASFF, which is the Security Hub finding format.
Like yep.
But also, if I refresh here, the Security Hub, I'm going to see the findings from today. See, few seconds. So I only have this finding, which is fine. I don't have secrets in outputs in this CloudFormation. See the resources that went through.
Yeah, can we zoom in a bit there? Can we see that?
This is the default control tower stack set.
Yeah.
And Prowler went through it to look for secrets and didn't find anything. And this is the severity level and everything here. See, and the remediation or whatever is needed. So you can go also here if you want to filter by severity, by provider severity level is critical. And you get all the critical from Prowler. And also the status pass or fail or whatever. Also, some people used to integrate Prowler in Security Hub, only sending the fail findings, okay?
Right.
Because you save some money in terms of findings with Security Hub, okay? Once you have this here, you can keep working with, say, with your actions, if you have work actions or workflows, etc., that you have natively configured in your Security Hub.
Wow,
so it's the way to enrich Security Hub, actually.
Yeah. So for people maybe just joined, what Tony is showing us is how you can use Prowler not just to output data locally, either CSV, HTML, or JSON, but also how you can integrate that data back into Security Hub if you're using that as your single pane of glass, right? For managing security, right? So that's pretty cool, man.
A very common use case also that we have seen is people using these CSV or JSON files to ingest the information into Elasticsearch, Splunk, or many others. So the solution to do that is very easy. So we have an option in Prowler where you can store the outputs in an S3 bucket, and the S3 bucket with a Lambda function do the magic. It's very easy. Everything is written already. So you can if you write Lambda function to import to Elasticsearch, you have one.
Right.
And the last thing I wanted to show, sorry?
Yep. No, last thing, Tony.
Yeah. We are running out of time. I know. So just one very helpful command. So let's say that you have one account, which is your auditor account. If I run AWS STS get call identity, I get my auditor account, but I'm not going to audit my own account. I want to audit a third-party account. So if you can do that very easily with Prowler Assume Role. So if you do this, something like this, this is going to just run Prowler, assuming a role in this account. But I don't want just to do this. I want to assume role, also telling Prowler, hey, I have another organization role where I can pull information, additional information from AWS organizations, and I want to audit only the EC2 service, and I want to audit only this region. And in seconds, you are going to get that done. If you want to do multiple accounts, we have that information, how to do that in the documentation portal, okay? So see, in 3 seconds, we scan the remote account, and we got, look, open this, we got all the information from the account in the CSV as well. So let me show you this account. See, the account email, the account name, the account ARN, the account organizations, or even if you have tags in your account, you get it there as well. So this is the way to populate or enhance the findings with Prowler.
Awesome,
Great.
Tony. This has been great. We need to kind of like
excellent demo.
Excellent demo. If you're in the chat, let us know what you think. Do you find this useful? How might you use it? But I think certainly from what you've shown us, Tony, this is awesome. Now, before we close, there is something really important we need to ask you.
Most important question of the day, of the week.
So let's get Tony.
It's got Tony icon.
You walk into your favorite pizza joint. Do you ask for pineapple on your pizza, or do you go old school? Tell us what's your preference.
I cook my own pizza. I used to cook one pizza a week, every Sunday, mostly. And I don't use pineapple. No.
You don't?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry, Rick.
Actually, Alvaro as well. You might. I don't know if you know Alvaro, the data hero. He also is not a fan. So okay, we'll put you on there, but we still love you.
You join the small team, Tony. You're on the smaller team. Most people like pineapple. Who knew?
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up, everyone. Tony, it's been really great to have you. We're gonna share resources. Share the links to the repo, folks. If you haven't tried Prowler, try it. Tony's walked us through some of the capabilities. It looks awesome. It's definitely going to save your a lot of time and effort. Coming up in 2 weeks, we've got the next episode of Build on Open Source. We are going to be featuring AWS Community Builder, John Mill, who's going to be talking about Compose X, which effectively is, as he calls it, no-code CDK for Docker Compose and AWS ECS. So effectively, it's a really nice tool that allows you to really easily make easy your deployments of a number of workloads on AWS. So definitely make sure you check out that episode's coming up on the 17th of March. Also, a reminder.
Also St. Patrick's Day, just saying.
Sorry. Yeah, so we're wearing green, aren't we?
We have to be.
More hats, maybe even some Guinness. And also another reminder, please, if you can complete the survey link for the show, let us know how you think AWS can better support open source. As a thank you, you've got exclusive content, which is going to effectively be all the stuff we've shared today, plus more. So definitely appreciate you completing that. And I think with that, thank you again, Tony. I was going to ask you one final question. I'm not sure we've got enough time for it. But
we got time. We could go, Rick. So, go on.
One of the things I'd like to ask is that you've been working on Prowler for a large number of time. You're now version 3. Okay, what's the one thing that you wish you'd known today, or sorry, when you started that you've learned along the journey? What was the one thing, do you think, when doing the project?
I'd like to know more Python to save time.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, because I thought Bash was easy, but Python is easier and better and faster.
Good stuff. Good to know. Okay, folks. All right, listen, thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks a lot for all the questions we had. Again, make sure you let us know what you'd like to see us feature in future episodes of Build on Open Source. That's all from us this episode. See you on March 17th, Patrick's Day. Come bringing your favorite St. Patrick's gear, send us pictures, your favorite St. Patrick's jokes, whatever. It's going to be a St. Patrick's special, I think, on that episode.
Why not? Okay, thanks everybody. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.